What is going on, everybody? That's right. See, I'm gonna make this kind of my every time thing. We'll come in, we'll chill out beforehand. I like this. I don't know what it is. I hate the blank screen, or they'll have like the music and all that kind of stuff, and people just have to sit and wait there. I can vamp for a couple minutes. It's not an issue. So yeah, man, we're gonna do that. I'm gonna make sure that this is public so that all of those wonderful, wonderful audience members out there, it is officially pubic. So we're good. What did I say? Public. So it's officially there. We're up. We're happening. Let's see if anyone's there. If you're up there, let's give it a share. Let's get it out there. Um, Tonight we have a really good guest. I'm very excited. We're going to learn an awful lot about interviewing, which so maybe by the end of this, I'll be able to actually be a good interviewer. You guys might actually be interested in what I'm talking about. And he also is a comic book secondhand seller and speculator. So this is going to be a really interesting one, folks. I think you're going to have a good time. Jack's in the house. What's up, Jack? How you doing, man? Good to see you. Did Russell's show end early, or did he not have one today? It's weird seeing you right away. Good though. Very good to see you, homie. I'm gonna start in a quick minute. Yo, Mueller, what's going on, homie? Mueller, dude. Very good to see you, man. Like I said before, if you guys want to share this out, I'm going to start this in just a minute. Oh, Wendy's already sharing it. She's freaking awesome. Let me see if my guest is back yet. Not quite. So I'm gonna keep vamping and having fun with you guys. But yeah, it's gonna be a good show. I'm very excited. Actually, I do have something to talk about before we do this. I wanted to talk about last week we had the show with Angela Odling. And the thing about that was we went into some kind of dark territories. And I know that that might have worried people a little bit, maybe even have felt like off-putting because we did talk about some very serious stuff. I want you guys to be aware that when I do talk to my guests beforehand, I ask them, the question I always ask is there anything we can't talk about? And that was something that I went very deep in with Angela because, of course, her comic is very cathartic. It goes into a lot of personal stuff. So I had the private chat in StreamYard here set up for her to make sure that she would be comfortable and cool. So I just wanted you guys to be aware that when that interview happened, everything that happened between us, so like all the conversation and stuff, we were both aware that that was going to come up, and there was no kind of, it wasn't uncomfortable for us. So I just hope that it wasn't uncomfortable for you guys either. So anyways, without further ado, I think it's time to start this show. Let's go. Let's have, oh, I love this. Come on, let's have some fun, gang.
Canadian bacon is actually really good, and it's nothing like normal bacon, and it's better than ham, which you guys seem to call Canadian bacon. I'm very good at writing. I write very well. Yeah, it's Shop Talk.
Do some of your audience members like the word fuck? Cool, then I'm gonna keep saying fuck. Because I care.
What the fuck is going on? So good to see you guys. That's right. It's Chuck's Shop Talk. It's official. Once you see that crazy music and whatever babbling I do every week, you know, man, it's time. I'm really excited about this week's guest. He's a super cool dude. I would say he is easily one of the best interviewers to ever that I've ever had to deal with. I am Sam. What's going on, man? Oh, my dude Josh is in the house. What's up, my Canadian brother? Today, I think you guys are really going to like this one a lot. I am speaking with an avid interviewer, a secondhand comic book dealer, and a comic book speculator. He actually teaches comic book speculation. So and you might say, what is that? It'll come up. Don't worry. So I would love to bring out one of my favorite dudes, a really solid guy, my man, Andrew Davis. What's going on, homie?
Nothing much. Thank you for having me on, and that's an intro right there, because I do like Canadian bacon.
It's the shit, and it's not just ham. I was gonna say he, but me. I know what I'm talking about. It's a totally different thing. So I want you guys to know something. I did say it earlier, but Andrew, as honestly, he's such a good interviewer, and I wanted to have him on here because I thought it would be really good. A lot of us have our own web shows, and a lot of people want to do that kind of stuff. Yeah, see, even Nicholas Mueller does it right away. Andrew is amazing in interviews. He goes heavy into details, and he really does. I was super amazed. I think you actually went into Welcome to the Void, and I don't even think I'd sent you the book. So it was nuts. I was so seriously impressed with the amount of work that you did, and your style and what you do really kind of excited me and made me want to be a better interviewer. And in fact, you and I talked the other day. I'm sorry, I know I'm yakking a lot right now. You and I talked the other day, and I asked you, like for some tips and that kind of stuff, and you sent me the files that you still had on me from the different interviews. So I wanted to show you that you excited me so much that I actually wrote down all my own questions and stuff because I want to do this good in honor of you. Andrew, welcome aboard to Chuck Shop Talk.
Oh man, I'm stoked to be here, and now I feel totally pressurized. And not my intention to inspire, but I guess I've done that. So we can end right now, everybody. Mission accomplished.
You're happy. You got something good out of this. We can leave. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been a great show. No, yeah, no, but that's the thing about inspiration, right? Like that's usually not what we're trying to do, but doing it, it's such a big deal, So it's what keeps a lot of us doing it. Oh shit. John comes in. We all got a file on check. Thank you, homie. I would love to see some of those files. I'm sure they're not NSA. They're not safe for work. So yeah, it says here. So I'm reading over my notes because I'm being a good boy. You're an interviewer. You dropped almost 100 interviews in 2020. Is that correct?
Yeah, 90. So I did approximately about 93, 95. So 90 of them were for my show, Conversations in Pop Culture, which was a direct response to COVID, meaning that I was so backed up on Pop Anime Comics Lounge, and I still am about 30 deep on that show, that I had to do something during COVID. And I said, hey, let me just do something live. Wanted to just talk to wrestlers, fill the void while I still was editing, and then got one interview, got another interview, and built off of that. And then prior to all this, with my other show, I have had 120 interviews done over about 4.5 years. That show's still going on. I'm still getting stuff out there, and then this show's taking over, and I got a new goal. So I'm actually coming back tomorrow night. Double interviews on Sunday. I have a Monday and a Wednesday of next week, and I'm doing 150 this year.
Wow.
So, and I might just be doing about 40, 45 by March is the way I'm going. So I already have 6 booked, and I'm going to be doing a hell of a lot more. And I don't really know what I'm doing, so it's kind of crazy. But yeah, I love it, and just
no one buys that. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm getting so many guys coming in here right now being like, he gives great interviews. He's awesome. So that I call bullshit on that right away. I love you, dude. But no, I'm going to call bullshit. You definitely know what you're doing. Let's go into interviewing. Why is that something that excites you so much? What is it about interviewing that makes you tick?
So I've come to the conclusion where there's 2 types of content. There's curation, and then there's interviewing people. And so I am not good at curation. I was doing it a while back before I got into the entire interview game on YouTube, making videos, giving feedback and comments, and nobody was really looking at it. And I enjoyed talking about it, but it's sort of lonely. And it's not interesting because I'm just commenting on something. And then I'm like, well, I could speak to my heroes. I could speak to people that I'm interested in comics. I could speak to indie wrestlers. And I like these people. I watch these people. I have conversations with this. And so that's kind of what wound up happening for me, is that I'm getting to speak to a person. I'm getting to know them. We're talking about things. And I get to ask them the questions I want to ask them. And that's something that I thoroughly enjoy a lot. And then also, I'm spending time with people, and especially when like I got to do Paul Levitz. He ran DC Comics for a while. He is known as the internship that never ended. And so think about that. I was in his house interviewing him, and I got to spend like an hour and a half with him just talking about it before the interview, and I got to pick his brain. And so it's very cool when you get to know somebody and somebody who is successful and ran DC Comics, and whether you love or hate DC Comics is not the issue, but it's the idea that somebody's willing to give you their time. And
so that was a
you get
physical interview?
Occupy it. Yeah, in his house, seeing some cool stuff. I'm not going to tell what was in his house.
No.
But some really cool stuff. And he was actually a professor of mine in college, where I went to college at Manhattanville. And so I got to actually enjoy an entire week, about 15 weeks with him. And then I got to interview him. And so it's very cool. And it was one of my earlier ones. And I wasn't ready for that one. I mean, this was back 5.5 years ago, really. And here I am, man, and I'm doing this interview. And then I did Denny O'Neil like a week or 2 weeks later. And then prior to Paul Levitz, I did Howard Cruz, who led the gay comics movement. And so it's like I'm occupying a piece of history and insight. And it's just it's amazing because how many people get to do that? And people are terrified of public speaking. And here I am speaking to people who are legends in the comic book industry and have done things that are super important and have changed the game. And then you know, fast forward, I've done Dennis Kitchen maybe about a year ago. And Dennis Kitchen is the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. And I'm a free speech guy. And so that's a big one. And we talk about comic books. And, you know, you have Bilal, and I don't know without Dennis Kitchen if that would even be allowed, and what that has pushed forward and progressed on freedom of speech and writing and comics. And that organization has done amazing things. And I actually have a great story about that. So I studied abroad in DC, and I actually got to go see a Supreme Court argument as part of my class. And afterwards, I got to meet with Anthony Scalia. And so I asked him the question on, we had a question and answer thing. And it's a great story because I asked him the question about video games and freedom of speech in video games, and how California didn't want to sell mature rated video games. And the Comic Legal Defense Fund actually submitted a brief to him, and he was the deciding factor, saying, and I quote, he said, "I find no intrinsic value in pissing on a cop, but to prohibit it becomes an issue and it becomes a very slippery slope." And the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, just to talk about them, really pushed that forward. And so when I'm like, and this is what we talk about a lot with a lot of creators and stuff, is that, you know, especially the old timers, is they were part of that movement and part of pushing forward freedom of speech and things like that. So we have a conservative Supreme Court justice writing the decision, basically saying that California cannot ban selling mature rated video games, even though he disagrees with the message that the video game is putting based on freedom of speech. And that's a massive victory for comic book freedom of speech.
Wow, that's freaking awesome.
And
so cool.
he had to think for a minute and a half, and everybody in my class was like, wow. It was an amazing moment, because it was a moment where he had to think, and he had to think long and hard on it. And I had a Supreme Court justice understanding that I did my homework on it. So that's the type of interviewer I am. I'm sure people are seeing this and know exactly. There's been comments, and I've seen them, and there were people I've interviewed, and you know very well as well that. So maybe that's where the interest started.
Right? No, that's so cool. So I'm just letting you know, Josh Pantalleresco, who is also another great interviewer, he's much more kind of off the cuff and very sort of engaging in a conversational way. Like, you are a little more hard hitting, whereas he's a little more let's sit around as friends and all that kind of stuff. You guys have very different interview styles, but both give really great interviews. So he wants you on his show. So that's a big deal. We're making matches here, and there was a great question. I just want to make sure. Well, this came up, of course. Andrew does a great amount of homework, and he does. I love that, and we're going to talk more about that later. Don't you worry. John said, "Physical interview, is that even a thing?" I mean, not now, but it was once. You can tell your kids, there was a time Andrew remembers a day when he got to go into a person's house and talk to them. Okay, here's a great question from Angela Odling, who was our guest last week. I believe actually you caught that show. And she says, do you have a number one person who you'd like to interview that you haven't been able to yet?
Oh man, there's so many. There's so many.
You can give us
My
a couple.
the person I want to interview, and it's a little bit cliche. I am a big wrestling fan, and I would kill to interview The Miz. I think that guy is beyond underrated. I think he is arguably the best wrestler in the world, hands down. And I would kill to have an interview with him. A few years ago, I would have said that it would have been Christopher Daniels, but I actually did get to interview Christopher Daniels. And so that was one of my bucket lists. So I actually accomplished something on that. Nicest guy in the business. Also the Young Bucks, and I messed that one up. That's a whole different story, but there was an opportunity for me to do it, and things got messed up, and it just wasn't the right time and all that stuff. And they would also be in comics though. I would love to have a sit down with J. Scott Campbell. I think Campbell would be interesting. I also just think that there's just so many people like and Nia is another one. Nia
Rufino, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I would love. And then I am working on a few other people from Zenoscope. And then Corey Hardiman, who was in this, knows who the person is. Where I'm working on Mike Chrome, and that's another one because I'm a big Zenoscope fan. So those are kind of the 3-4 really that I'm aiming right now. But it's always changing, it's always growing, and who knows? Maybe Chuck will be number 5 on that list.
Well, I mean, you've done me, so yeah. So Josh says Miz is incredibly underrated, super passionate about what he does. Only flies. He's too polished sometimes, but he's great. So what is it about Miz? Is it just that you're a big fan of his work, or is there something about the guy himself that makes you want to interview him so bad?
So he just there are moments where there's this great moment where he's doing this like soldiers veteran thing, and he just knows how to make everybody in the room feel super good. And it's this touch heart moment in WWE where, and then like he's like, I'm gonna rip this off if you don't tell me you're my favorite wrestler, to like this kid, and his dad's a soldier, and obviously, and the kid's just standing his ground, and it's just this like great moment. And there's a bunch of moments like that with The Miz, and then he's just such a good wrestler, and he just seems like such a nice guy, and he seems so humble, and he seems like he cares. There's the WrestleMania where it was Maurice and The Miz versus Nikki Bella and John Cena. And that promo The Miz cut on John Cena, and don't get me wrong, I love John Cena. The guy is a core foundation of WWE, but that promo was just real. He's had 2 or 3 promos against Daniel Bryan as well, and like it just cuts hard, and you feel it, and you sense it, and you're like, damn, this guy is all WWE. This guy is everything WWE should be. So much heart and soul of that company, and the fact that he doesn't get what he should be getting because the guy's a main eventer, and it knows. I love the fact that he knows how to fit in his role, and he knows how to take a shitty role and turn it into gold, just pure gold. And he's done it so many times. He's like Chris Jericho in that fashion. And if he went to AEW, The Miz would be a main eventer, hands down.
It's so funny because I'm going to be straight with you. I don't give a fuck about wrestling. But everything you said made me wish that I knew what the fuck you were talking about, because that was really interesting. So your passion really exudes. It comes through. I totally understand that. So that's just, dude, that's so fucking cool. Wendy has a question. Has there been someone you really wanted to interview, but for whatever reason, it just couldn't happen? Who's the one that got away?
Oh man. Oh, this is tough.
I'm just waving and saying hi to all the guests while you think about it.
I'm trying to think. I don't want to bury the person, but there's been a few that have gotten away. Sort of gotten away. Shelly Martinez was she was Ariel. and it was sort of going to happen, and then it didn't happen, and then it's complicated, and then things just don't didn't work out in that fashion. But there are people that I wish that got to re-interview, like Denny O'Neil would have been great. To do another interview. Howard Cruz would have been great, and I was hoping to gear up, but obviously Denny passed away. Howard Cruz passed away, and I'm thankful for the 2 interviews that I got with both of them. I'm just upset that because I would have liked a more polished interview with Howard Cruz in particular, because that interview was really good, and there's a lot of good stuff in it, but it needs to be polished. And I was a new interviewer, and I guess that's kind of what got away from me. Is really what I feel.
Oh, that's too bad, man. So I'm gonna tell you, there is so much fucking wrestling talk going on in here. You're probably gonna have to go through it at some point because people are trying to have a wrestling chat with you, and I'm sorry, I'm having none of it, guys. I need to be a part of the conversation too. I need to know how the hell we're talking about.
Y'all can DM me. Y'all can DM me.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit him up, man. Obviously, this is something he loves. So, or just hop on his Facebook or whatever and just start talking wrestling, and apparently that'll just go. Yeah, that's just still fucking going, guys. It's not happening. Michaela comes on. I love you, hon. You're terrific. That's my muffin. How did you get the interviews? How do you go about getting these big interviews? I know that you gave me some really good advice because I had said, hey man, like how I had kind of asked you quietly, and you were like, you're not ready, man. You at least have to hit that 20, and you basically what you told me was, and this was great advice, get ready for them. Go and get ready for them because you're not. And that's like totally fair advice. So one day when someone's ready for those interviews, how do you go about getting them?
So I'm going to clarify. My theory is the following, and it's a bunch of other people's theory as well, where you do a bunch of small interviews so you know your voice, you know your style, and do it when nobody's watching, because you want to practice and hone your skill. It's not that if you got a big interview, right off the bat, I'm not discouraging that, but what I'm saying is that hone your skill first. Get at least 10. I said get 20, but get at least 10 so you know your voice, do people you feel comfortable with, and start there so that you get a feel for your interview. Because the worst thing you can do is go out there and then do an interview when you're not ready and bomb and just not be prepared. And look, it's going to take practice. This is not a inherent skill. Some people have a knack for it, others don't, but it can be learned. And so get some interviews with smaller people first. And then what I do is that, and I did the same thing with the indie people and everybody else, is that there's 2 routes. So with the indie people, I just go into a Facebook group and say, hey, who's got a Kickstarter? I need a few interviews. Anybody interested? And usually that does the trick. And I've gotten a bunch, and I'm probably going to be getting like 25 in the next 3 weeks out of this that are going to be scheduled. I've already got it. I think I put something up like 3 days ago, and I've already booked like 4, and it's awesome. And I'm stoked for it. And I could probably book more, but I'm not killing myself right now, and I'm slowly building up again for season 2. But what I do with big guests is that I just reach out, say, hey, I got the show. I'm a big fan of yours. I would love to have you on. Are you interested? Here's a link to my show. Here's what I do. I usually be polite. I don't be an asshole. I usually say what I know and what I know them from also, because that helps. I also put in the tagline, so like, quick interview. Hey, quick question. Something that is sort of more friendly, or like I use now, quick interview. And also what I do on the wrestling front, and even with other celebrities that are more public, I tweet at a lot of these people, especially with wrestling. And I hate to do the wrestling thing, but I'm a big indie guy. Oh. And so I tweet at a lot of these people because I'm watching them wrestle every week. And so then when I shoot them a DM on Twitter and they've liked 15 of my tweets, they're going to be more likely to respond to me. So you should probably be following the people you want to interview, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram. You should probably be commenting, liking on it, and then ask them after you comment, because it sort of greases it a little bit and it makes it easier. But honestly, just ask. Don't be an asshole. Be polite. If they say no, say, hey, I'll circle back to you in 6 months. And also, it gets easier because right now I've done 213 interviews. So I have a big list of people that I can name drop. So I got a wrestler in particular, and his boss I interviewed. So what winds up, and his boss is sort of a referee. It's not really his boss, but it's a little, for lack of a better word, it's the easiest way how to describe it. His project manager, I'll go with, is sort of because the person who writes, the show he's on is the referee, and so I named the referee. And I don't know if I can still be heard. I'm back, and my camera's back.
I can hear you. Yep, you're good.
The referee, also the person who produces and directs the show, booked him. I name drop his name after I interviewed his boss / project manager / person who wrote the wrestling show. If that makes any sense, I'm trying to explain it the best way I can explain it. But that helps also, is that once you get a bunch of people, use their network and then name drop with people. So you work with certain people that you edit for. So if I say, hey, Chuck was on my show, I love your work, I just saw you work on this Kickstarter, are you interested? See how that creates a connection, and that creates sort of, I don't want to say a demand, but it creates verification. It creates I'm the real deal. So that's how I do it. It's a long answer, but that's typically how I do it. But also, you know what it is? Throw something out just really quickly on a Facebook group. And I'll say this, don't do it every day. Throw it out once, then wait 2 weeks to throw it out again, or 3 weeks, because you don't want to be spammy. You don't want to piss off admins in groups. If I throw something up into a group, and I think you had a group, if I do it once a month, it's not going to bother anybody. If I did it every day, it would bother people.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes perfect sense. Martin Piero says, "Don't name drop my name. People run away from you."
That's another thing. Also, is that be aware that sometimes names in wrestling, in comics, can be toxic, and so make sure that you know who is good and who's not. It did sometimes things happen. I don't want to. I'll just drop Joey Ryan and I'll leave it at that in the wrestling chat. But clearly, I think that says it all. For every wrestler who got it, I think everybody just got what I just said, and it's a code word. So yeah.
So I'm just checking off these little things, especially since we're mostly working on the interviews. Do you have a favorite interview? And do you have a least favorite interview? And obviously with the least favorite interview, you do not have to name the name, but you can just tell us maybe what made it your least favorite interview.
Oh man, I got two because I love one of these people. She's like the nicest person, and there's a bunch of funny stories, but I don't want to tell because it'll impact a bunch of my coworkers, or my coworkers. Episode 38 with Santine Phoenix. Santine just went all out for the first 12 minutes, and it was a very heavy interview. For those who don't know who Santine Phoenix is that Santine Phoenix is a former star who does comics and does a lot of Dungeons & Dragons. She's got a coming up, I think, in like 3 months. She's killing right now, and she's done like packaging for Wizard, and she's done pretty much a bunch of stuff. So she is amazing. It was great because that interview did is that since we went so deep into her past life and other things, it was very intense, and she talks about a lot of what happened to her. And I don't want to ruin it because I want people to go to.
Yeah.
It changed the rating of my show from being PG to now being explicit. I actually opened up a whole revenue and a whole different subsection, and actually allowed me to expand my show.
Oh wow!
We still good or no?
I've been picking up most of what you're saying. It is cutting out a little bit here and there, but
still good.
I'm still getting it. Can you hear me?
I don't know if Chuck's still there.
I'm here for sure. For those of you guys out there, Chucky's still around. Don't worry about it. If all else fails, it'll just be me for. Yeah, here we are. It's me for a little bit. He's probably going to come back soon. He might be restarting. So now we get to tap dance. We get to vamp a little bit. Explicit is way more fun. It's so true, right? I couldn't agree more. Let's see if we can bring him back on, see what happens. Hey,
Sorry
homie.
about that. It's my fault. I'm just going to take responsibility.
Oh, there's no blame or anything going around. You're good. It happens, man. This is one of those things you just it's part of what we're doing, so that's all good.
So I
Cool.
don't know what
Oh,
people caught up on, so I'm sure you're going to catch me up somewhere.
well, you talked a lot about the porn star, I believe it was.
Yeah, no, it really just allowed me to go from being a PG show to now being an explicit show, which allowed a lot more freedom and allowed me to ask harder. And it allowed me to curse, and it allowed guests to feel more comfortable to open up. And it sounds crazy where it's kind of, dropping an F-bomb. It changes the game.
I know it.
Or people feel more comfortable, speak more freely. I feel it. I'm not worrying that it's be a problem. And then episode 50 was with Keith Silverstein, and that guy is it's just that he's a fun guy. He knows how to play into. He knows how to when I do something, make a joke out of it and make me laugh. So there you go. So that's the short
Do you
answer.
have a yeah, that was the short one, was it? Did you have a least favorite?
Oh man.
Again, you don't have to name
been,
the name.
There have been interviews where I thought people were going to be superstars and they just weren't, and they let down big time. And they're like, there's a lot of bravo and a lot of hype with who they are, and they just let down. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And it was frustrating because it's like, I'll give a great example. You were phenomenal, and you were great, and it was fun and it was exciting, and person was complete opposite of what you were, if that makes any sense. Where they had name recognition, killed it. They on paper looked like a superstar, and then they showed up and they just were a blowout. And they thought upsetting, like pulling.
It's kind of like making out with someone who's sleeping. I get it.
So yes, that's what it is.
Was one of those a best-selling writer? That's what he's asking.
No, they weren't. They weren't. They were a voice actor, and it should have been a home run, and it was like a strikeout. That's what it was.
That sucks. So we very much covered your interviews. Why don't we, Chuck is, oh, that's sweet. Chuck is my shiz. My question for Andrew is this. Are you aware of how fame can alter some guests? Great question. Thank you, dude.
I guess. I think it does, but yeah, I definitely think fame changes people in ways. And I think the way I do it, where money makes you more of what you are. So if you're a great human, money, you become better. And I think that if you're a horrible human being, money, well, that you become more of what you are. And I think that's famous. I really think that I've seen people who are bad people who then become famous and then they become good at the same time. But for the most part, I see it more of it's just an amplifier of what you already were beforehand.
Okay. No, I feel you there. So we very much delved into your interviewing side, and that's only like a third of what we wanted to talk about tonight. I also wanted to talk about, of course, we mentioned fucking wrestling to death, for me at least. I'm sure you can talk for hours about that. Comics is kind of, that's my shit. That's something I can talk a little bit more intelligently about. What is your origin story as far as comics are concerned?
So my what is my what? I missed like the half of that question.
No, that's okay. What is your origin story as far as comics are concerned? What got you into comics?
I was a graphic novel reader first. So came in 12, 13, reading a lot of graphic novels, big Teen Titans fan. So I was reading manga beforehand. And right across in Barnes & Noble from the manga section is the graphic novel section. You're like, oh, that's a cool cover. What's this about? And then you pick it up, and then my parents, they wanted me to read, and I was reading regular books, and they're like, oh, you can read this too. Probably a little too young. Probably that's why I'm where I am right now. No, I'm kidding. If they're smart, they let me read what I wanted to read because reading is good, and if that's just a fact. So read everything and anything. That's the PSA of the day. But anyhow, what wound up happening is that I read Teen Titans, and then I was reading a lot of graphic novels till I got into college, and then I got into single issues, and from there was reading a lot of DCs. Was in an exchange where we were all reading the New 52, and everybody bought. Me and 10 guys or so, everybody bought like 5 or 6 issues, and then we all exchanged it. So we all actually read the first like 6 issues of the New 52. I'll be the first to say that was not the best thing to do. We probably should have went the Marvel route, but I digress. Justice League and Batman were great. They were great in that. But the Flash was okay, and Green Lantern was fine, but it's really not great. So it was a bad. But I don't know if I'm. Yeah, we're making it through, piecing it together. We're making it through here. But what wound up happening is I got into the Zenoscope, and from there I was reading Zenoscope, collecting cool covers because they have a lot of cool cover artists. Not ultra into the story, but love the cover work on it. And I'm a guy. I'm 20 years old. Nicely drawn females who are a little bit busty is Zenoscope for you, and they know it. I know it. I've interviewed Ralph. It's Ralph's one of the owners. It's not a secret in the business, in the industry. And so I got into that, and then fast forward, I wanted to start my website, Pop Anime Comics, and I needed money. And I'm a broke college kid. I got a little bit of money, but I don't have enough. And so I started looking at it, and I was like, oh, man, I could sell this book for this. I could sell this book for that. And then I sold a bunch of comic books, was selling some Spider-Man stuff, and that's sort of what happened. And that's how I got into comic book investing and selling, where all of a sudden you buy a book for $10 and then you could sell for $100. And then you buy a book for $5 and you could sell for $50. And then that's what happens. And so that's what happened. And then obviously Pop Anime Comics, doing written interviews, transformed into Pop Anime Comics Lounge, and then fast forward, it's doing this. And obviously I left selling comics for a little bit, and then I got back into it much harder. Still was collecting and picking up stuff. I was just taking a 2-year break from it, and then I got back into it, and now it's fueling a lot of investment stuff that I'm doing in the stock market and mutual funds and index funds, and it's a good accelerator for money. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And it's a lot of fun, too, because I have personal collections as well. And I got a bunch of fun stuff. So, and then it's just fun. And then while all this was going on, I was going to anime cons and comic cons. And I was presenting a variety of topics as well. So that's something. And I was doing that because I'm broke and you get a free ticket if you present. And it's a good way to get into a con. And that means I have more money to buy comics and buy stuff at cons and get stuff signed and graded and things like that. And so $50, and now cons are like $80. Like, $80 cuts in, and then like I bring my parents along, and then I put them on my panel. Oh, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And so now I'm like, saving $240 and bringing my parents along, and super smart. And so that's how I got in. I've done about 50 panels at cons at this stage, and haven't gotten paid yet. It's BS, and that's a whole discussion that I'm more than happy to have with anybody and everybody on that. So that's I'm sure you have a bunch of questions out of that.
No, yeah, there is a bunch of stuff. Mike Bengtson came in. He said, "Have you seen a Steph Wilson cover? You are a guy and may find his covers you will like."
I just backed Corey Harmon's sister Murray, and I know he has a cover with that, so I'm excited for that one. So very, very. He had a cover on
Belial too as well. So yeah, no, he has a lot of stuff going on. No, that's freaking awesome. And so we talked about the comic it was funny. 'Cause, my question was going to be, what's your origin story as a comic fan, as an interviewer, and as a seller speculator? You did all that, so that's freaking awesome. Um, so tell us about the selling aspect of it, about it a little bit more. I know that you told us why you did it, but is it so that's something that kind of comes and goes with you? Do you have to keep up with a lot of trends and stuff, or is that just something you normally did anyways?
So it was interesting. So I left for 2 years, and then pretty much 2018, I've been way more gun on it. So that's something that I've been more gun ho on in the last 2 years, and I'm probably going to be for the next at least 10, if not longer, at the very least. Um, and so for me, I was going a lot of Zenoscope. I was going down the route of that because it's just easier to deal with collectibles that are limited. And I found that they go at a much higher rate, and I could do better business with that. Seeing Marvel, and I was just relatively sick of seeing Marvel. Also going the image direct a lot, preferred image more. Um, and then now back into what Marvel is with the Star Wars stuff coming out. So I'm now retooling and I'm re-entering with all of that, and so but I'm now I took a break and then now I'm just slowly adding weight back on with it. But I've always been collecting, and what winds up happening is that as a fan, I've been collecting, and then all of a sudden, what starts to happen is that you collect a bunch of stuff when I was taking a break, and then you realize that it's valuable. It happened, and you're like, oh man, this book bought for 20 is worth $120, and then you start selling. You're like, oh snap. That's kind of my entire position. I don't know that answers everything. I don't know what we'll call it that.
No, that's yeah, no, that's an awful lot. Do you have any books that in your personal collection that you just it doesn't matter the price, you can't sell it?
Oh yeah, I actually brought out two of them.
Great.
So there's stories. There's stories. So this one's a fun one. So this is a man on Earth. And the story with this one is that, man, I'm gonna embarrass CG, so they won't let me too much. I don't know. So basically, this was by Dan Jurgens. He's the writer on it. So CGC was supposed to come. I was like the first person in line. They didn't show up for 45 minutes. So I'm just waiting. A bunch of people are behind me. Just waiting. Dan's signing for about an hour. He's relatively free. I mean, so I saw him the night before at the Library of Congress with Levitz, of all people, talking about, I think, he said to him, hey, man, could you throw a sticker on there? So for stinger is a tattoo term. It's a little tiny tattoo. See what I can do. So now nobody's around. So he comes, and Dan signs it nice and big. His handler's there. I pay the $10, and then Dan just starts sketching. His handler's smart enough to say, doesn't stop him, doesn't get in the way. Some handlers are great. Now he sketch it. It's cool seeing him sketch, and then his handler's like, oh yeah, Will Friedle, who plays Terry McGinnis, beyond the cartoons there. You're gonna be fine. And no, man, I'm not gonna push my luck with it. I'm already tired. I'm on crutches because that's how I walk. So wait right here. Then goes back behind the entire thing at a con. Then speaks to Will Friedle's handler, and he says, he comes back. He says, come. So me, my dad, the CGC rep, all go back. We're walking behind basically Ben Savage, I think Robert Strayer, and Will Friedle the booth next. Then his handler stops him, pulls Will Friedle out. Will Friedle signs, makes my hand. We have a 2-minute conversation. He signs the book, says, I am Batman. It's Will Friedle. CGC witnesses it. And then this book got CGC by all of them on it and verified. So that's a real story. It's a fun story. It's an awesome story. It's one of those stories that's a con story. And that's a podcast in of its own self, is what is your craziest con story? And this is mine. So if I ever write Batman, the guy to do it at this point. So that's my one, and this is an awesome book as just a story piece. And it doesn't matter where, because it's just an amazing story. And
Dude, that's
that's
cool.
and then my second favorite book is a Saga 996 CBS thing. It's a cool book. It's fun. I love Saga, and yeah, there's no really cool story beyond that. I just love Saga.
I feel you. I have the hardcover. I totally get it. Yeah. No, I totally feel you there. That's dude, that's awesome.
Like the best story ever. So, yeah,
dude, that is
just
a really
one of those things.
Story.
Somebody wants that podcast, crazy story. It's all yours because I'm not doing it. I got 3 podcasts that I'm running, and I'm not interested in a 4th.
So, going back to interviews, just for a quick minute, who are your favorite interviewers?
Oh man, so 3. If you really went down that. So I love Joe Rogan. I love Howard Stern. I think Ben Shapiro's good on his Sunday special. And then I also enjoy people like Larry King. And maybe Larry King is not the quote unquote more of like a panel interview discussion. But I still view him as a good interviewer. And when the work he's done with that. So I like those 4. And I think those, obviously, Howard Stern is the king of everything. And Howard Stern is just a brilliant entertainer. And the way he makes people feel comfortable is awesome. And it's fantastic. And then Rogan, as an interviewer, very much just can talk and talk and talk. It doesn't get boring. I mean, piece of it can get boring. But when you're going for 2.5 hours, it's hard for pieces not to get boring, but a lot of it is good. Ben Shapiro, guy knows his stuff, and he knows how to do his homework. He knows how to beat hard. He knows how to, whether you like him and his politics or not, he knows how to talk to people from the other side. He knows how to raise points. He also knows how to make it non-contentious, even when it is contentious. And then Larry King is just another like Howard Stern, but more of you're having a civil discussion around a table, and especially with hot button issues. I mean, his work during, the steroid issue in WWE, I mean, that's not an easy conversation, and all these deaths and the Chris Benoit situation, that's something that isn't exactly an easy topic to talk about, and it's a real hot button issue at the time. And it's kind of like, okay, we're not here to necessarily have a good time. We're here to discuss an issue that is pressing. And so that's something that I think is good to take note of. And I don't watch enough of all 4 of them. I don't. And I really should. And I'm the first person to say it. I watch probably more Ben Shapiro, Joe Rogan, Howard Stern. I need to watch more Larry King and some of the older stuff because it will help you. And that's another thing about interviews and becoming a good interviewer is you got to do your homework on watching people, their cadence, the way they speak, words they use, how they enunciate, because I can go and change my tone of my voice, and it can change the entire conversation. I could crack a joke every once in a while that changes the entire conversation. But those 4, I think are some of the best, and will benefit everybody.
That's a really good list. So I know no one asked me, but for those of you out there who are interested in other interviewers, for me, especially on YouTube right now, if you check out Hot Ones, Sean Evans on Hot Ones is brilliant. He's absolutely amazing at kind of making people feel comfortable and really kind of being there. But his research is ridiculous, just next level research. I know that a lot of people just see it as a gimmick show, but once you get past the gimmick and you realize that it's there for a reason, it's just an absolutely brilliant show. So I watch Hot Ones religiously. And the other one is he comes from Canada, and he was on all of the on Much Music, which is basically our MTV. And his name is Nardwar the Human Serviette, which is such a stupid name, but his level, and he can be annoying as hell and frustrating, but his level of research is ridiculous. So just as a researcher, he is someone to watch out for. He always blows people away and has neat little trinkets and stuff from their shows and stuff. So, yeah, man, those are some people. If you're asking me, which again, no one did. Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. I'll ask you now.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I was really pushing that, wasn't I? Jeez. So thank you for that, buddy. I appreciate. See, that's why you're a good interviewer. You had my back, even when you were on the other side. Which, that's a good question. How does it feel to be on the other side?
And it's the other side. It's so
I think I actually missed that entire answer. Uh-oh. Well, if you guys can see me out there, yeah.
He's
coming back.
It's good to be good to be on the other side there. I think you asked me how to feel to be interviewed, and so I hope I'm answering this correctly. But it's not to be on the other side and not worry too much. And I broke the internet again, apparently.
You did. You did break the internet, but that's okay. It can always be fixed again. There's more than enough internet for everybody. Are you back, or do we have you? Uh-oh.
No. To seriously answer the question, for everybody out there, and clearly I know how to break the internet, so this is a bucket list number 2 checked off. It's really nice to actually be interviewed for once versus doing the interview work. Because when I did 90 of them, I mean, it's just intense, and I don't get asked to do interviews. And so I love doing interviews. It's kind of fun. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I understand, like, when you're pushing a Kickstarter and all that, like, it can get, like, intense when you're doing, like, 50 of them in a month. But if I was to do, like, 3 a month, I would love it. I just don't, but you know what it is? Unfortunately, there's so many people asking, and it doesn't happen. So I enjoy it. I really enjoy it. And it's also nice to experience it because it does make me a better interviewer when I'm in the hot seat, because it is an experience. And that's another thing that I think I could ask and throw out there as advice, is that being interviewed is super helpful too, because now you know what it's like for somebody asking you questions, and now you can relate to it. It's kind of like if you play a musical instrument, and then you go see a concert, you say, "Oh, I now know how hard it is to play a guitar. I don't know how hard it is to run a Kickstarter. I've never run a Kickstarter in my life. I have an idea that it's difficult, but I'm not going to go sit here and say, hey, I know exactly what it feels like when my Kickstarter slows down in the middle of week 2 and I got $1,050 to get to my goal, and that I have this to worry about, I got that to worry about, I got 15 days, and then should I have lowered my goal? Like, I don't know what that feels like, but I know what it feels like to be interviewed."
Yeah. So you literally just described my week 2 of fucking Belial 1. So thank you for that. I'm having PTSD over here.
That's my goal. My goal is to make this very difficult for you. But that's my goal.
No, dude. As you kind of should, man. Put me through the ringer a little bit. I'll only get better if you fuck with me, so I like that. Martin says, I despise talking about myself, but in this lockdown world, it's something you have to do. You know what, though? I don't think, and by all means, tell me if I'm wrong, but I would say we're trying to sell something. People want the connection to you, too. Like, yes, of course, we would love it if we could just talk about the books and stuff, but how important would you say is the connection to the person rather than just to the entertainment?
It's tough. It's tough because, and I'll explain why. So I like you. I just bought your Scout book because I like you. I just ordered it off of Midtown and previews, and I like you. I was going through previews, and if I didn't interview you, if I didn't know, and I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't have even given a second look. It's because it doesn't. I'm excited, but I like you, and so you see that many ways because I know who Chuck is. I don't know,
That's sweet
and
as
so,
hell.
yeah. So my thing is that so it's very important that you are, but at the same time, when we look at the cosplay community, and we're about to controversial a little bit, well, I really know how important it is for you cosplay. I don't know how important it is for somebody to really care when you're more interested in how a person looks. You're more interested in tonight or saying else. So it's complicated in that. And so I'm very mixed on it, if that makes any sense to anybody.
No,
I don't know. I don't
it
know how
does.
you feel about all that.
I mean, thank you. That's a good question. I guess what I would say is I understand where Martin's feeling, and it would be nice if the book could sell itself, but it doesn't. And it certainly helps that I'm a fun guy to be around. And so if me being a fun guy to be around helps to sell that book, then this clown will dance. Like, I don't care. Whatever it takes. I wish that the story could be done on its own, for its own reasons and whatnot.
It's
But
not even
I'll
me
dance.
attacking. It's not me attacking. It's me being honest, where I know who you are. And so I want to support people that have been on my show. I want to support your Kickstarter. It has nothing
Yeah.
to do with it's not that I want you to dance for me. It's that I'm like, oh man, it's $3. It's his project. He worked on it. It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't, if I didn't know who you are, if I didn't have a personal connection to it, I just don't know anything about Scout. Scout is not at the top of my list when I'm going through my reviews. I just
Yeah.
know, and I was just scrolling through it. I'm like, oh my book, holy shit. Like, that's my thought process. And so that people want their books to sell themselves. But is unfortunately, I think there's more in our comic world, and I think we're starting to see that. And start that with even like the big guys, and we saw all these big people coming to Kickstarter. And nothing against them. I'm happy they came to the pool to play. I'm off about it. They the personal connections. Keanu might exception, but imagine if Keanu Reeves had personal connection much greater than what he had. He wouldn't have done, a little under. He would have done $2 million easy, hands down. And maybe you're wrong. Scott Snyder, if he had personal connection into this entire comic thing, he would have done much better. It's nothing again that a person which helps. I also think in entertainment in general, right, have a big issue where we also have people who are personal connection. We have an entire upper the top 3%, and we could call it players. I'll take it for. People don't really get personal connection with that cosplayer. They legitimately want the smut, and so there's a in it. And I think Kickstarter, if you have a personal connection with your audience, you're gonna kill it. But I also think that there's a bunch of people who don't give a fuck about personal connections, and they want an ends to the means. And why do you think I changed my entire parameter where I am interviewing a lot of male cosplayers now? I am interviewing a lot of people who have less than like 1,000 followers, have less than 10,000 followers, because it's time to even up the odds in the cosplay community tremendously, because the people who have less than 10,000 aren't doing smut, and they are just as good, if not better, than 4.2 just who, and I'm going to say it, I'm going to drop it, and controversial on this. This is why people don't want to be on my show, and it's fine because I don't want them, but I'm going to say it, where in March. I came out of the cave on March 25th. And I said, I'm doing this project. I don't know what's going to happen. And I left the cave and I decided to go out and kill something and drag it back home. Is what I did this year. 90 interviews, more live. I think there's 86 and 4 were pre-recorded on request of certain guests. And then I came out in the middle of hell. Jessica Nigeri, who is one of the top cosplayers who has 4.2 million followers, who could have easily, in her Instagram story with no effort, highlighted a cosplayer who had 50,000, not even 10,000, 50,000, and gave somebody a leg up, said mental health. Now, I'm not discouraging mental health. When you have 4.2 million followers, if you can't do it, you fucking hire somebody who can for $3 in Indonesia to do that. $3 a day is what it'll cost. Yeah. And you did nothing. And I say this, and this is hard. This is controversial. This is hard hitting. And then if you can't go support fucking Bilal, but you go support her, you can't go listen to my podcast. I'm not even asking for money from people, and they can't even listen to my show for 10 seconds, but they'll go happily spend $50 on her Patreon when she did nothing in COVID, and then she came out when the coast was clear. And she said, oh, my mental health problem's over. And I'm not discouraging mental health. I get it. I'm with people on the mental health thing. I'm in your corner rooting for you. But I'm not going to go and pretend that, and I'm not going to go buy her excuse. I'm just not. It's unacceptable, and it's the problem right now. And that's the problem every Kickstarter is facing, and every person on Kickstarter, including Keanu Reeves and Scott Snyder, are facing. It's not a big guy versus little guy. Legit, that entire community, the upper tier, is fucked up, and it's those people that need to be purged. And I know it's controversial. This doesn't get me guests. I can live with myself because I own my company. I own my podcasts. Yeah. Nobody tells me what to say or how to say it. I own it, and when I have private conversations with people, this is what they say. This is what they say. But they won't say publicly, and I wish they would. There's more than them. And now I'm going to be running for in 5 years. So that's my speech right there.
I like that. Well, and you know what, man? Hey, the views of my participants are not necessarily those of the Chuck Shop Network, and no, I mean, dude, I feel you there. I do get it, and that kind of thing can be really frustrating. I absolutely understand that. I am going to start to slow this down. We usually only go about an hour or so, but I did have a big question I wanted to ask you, and you know, my followers love to fucking dog me, and I love that about them. Come at me, I don't care. I want you, and so far you have been super honest about your answers. Hard hitting, in fact. I love that about you. So I want the real answers. You have in the last, and we said this already, like you've interviewed like 95 plus indie comic people. You've done a lot more indie comic people. Plus you do comic book speculating. So at this very moment, with the knowledge that you have now, guys, today is January 5th? Yeah, today is Tuesday, January 5th. So comic speculating is always changing. At this moment, what would you say are the people to watch, and who do you think are the people that you would suggest people invest in because you see things happening down the road?
So I missed part of that question. I missed like the last part of that question.
So that's okay. So basically, from a comic speculator standpoint, and having the information that you have about indies, who would you bet on as far as buying their books, keeping them, CGCing them, all that kind of stuff, and saving them for the future? Who are the ones that you would watch out for?
So in the mainstream, definitely Star Wars is the big winner of 2021. I don't know what Star Wars books, but just as an entity, tomorrow, New High Republic is coming out, and there's a lot of speculation surrounding it. So I would definitely be aware. Just to give you an idea of that, what I think is about to, whenever Midtown says limit one per person, usually that is an indicator. And then there's a bunch of other stuff, and then there's IDW's version of it. And so Star Wars is the winner of 2021. I mean, that's on the wall. I mean, that's nothing proprietary. Now, I don't know what Star Wars book, because it's a bit complicated, but that's something that I would look out for. If you're into comics, do your homework on Star Wars. Do your homework in your previews. Make sure you understand what Disney's doing. Make sure you understand what's going on with that. Also, Miss Marvel is about to sort of go down because of the TV show. Naomi just sort of got greenlit from DC and all that stuff, and that's a big deal. Definitely Starfire is getting interesting, I would say. And then those are like the mainstream stuff. And I don't really know what's going on with Image too much, because I've sort of been backing out a little bit and focusing more on the Star Wars and that stuff. Because I realized that that's sort of the big winner, and that's what I'm probably betting on. But as far as indie stuff going on, obviously I'm stoked for your book, and I think that's going to be a fun one to see. And more importantly, I'm more excited for where 3 and 4 are going. Two is going to be fun, but definitely where this is going, because it's clear where we're heading. It's not a secret where it's going. It's just how we're going to get there, and that's what I like about Bilal in particular. I think that's the answer. And then Sister Mercy, I'm very excited for that as well. That's Corey Hardiman's project. I would definitely look out for Steph Wilson. Steph's in everything. And that's something to pay attention to. I don't know what I mean. The thing is that I don't know half the project Steph is working on. All I know is that the artwork is fun, and I don't know how Steph describes his artwork, but it's like new school and busty. I don't know how to explain it. And I like that style. I love new school artwork. I love absurdity artwork. I love caricatures. Hopefully I'm not insulting Steph in any which way, and Steph, please correct me and yell at me and shoot me a DM if I'm wrong about that. And then there's other people. I think Nelly Jimison is coming up. And then Ian McDonald is another artist to watch out for. Okay. Just on that stuff. And then obviously Jamie Tyndall. Jamie Tyndall's going to kill it this year. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know who Jamie Tyndall is, Jamie Tyndall, I think he's a fellow Canadian. And Miss Meow did really well. And I'll say this very politely. I think it did $75,000. And I'm going to break this down on the stretch goals. So you can get the physical reward for $10. Then, because it did $75,000, you're getting every book's getting signed. You're then getting a bookmark. You're then getting a sticker, a button, a magnet, another sticker, another sticker. You're getting trading cards. You're getting an enamel pin, and you're getting an 11x17 print, and legitimately for $10. That's insane. Mm-hmm. That means that the stretch goals are far exceeding what anything you get. Plus, you get people like, I think Ash Maddie is another good one to look out for as well on the indie comic front. Because that guy or girl, I actually don't know what Ash Maddie is. So I don't want to assume anything here. But Ash Maddie's going to kill it. I don't know who Ash Maddie is. I don't know where Ash Maddie came from, but damn. Ash Maddie can fucking draw. It's unreal. And so that's what I would put money on with that stuff. But yeah, no, it's going to be a fun year. 2021, despite everything going on, and I'm going to be very polite about this. We're not going to be, content aren't coming back quickly. Guarantee you that. I put money on it. And I would definitely be on the lookout for better and more important Kickstarters, because there's a lot of cool stuff coming down the line. Yeah, I got a feeling this is the year of Kickstarter. If you think 2020 was the year, 2020 was good. 2021 is going to be beyond good.
Okay, man, I got to get some books on there then. Thank you for that. That's good to know.
I think it's going to hit. I think it's going to hit. I think there's a pivotal moment, and I think cons are going to be changed, and I think Kickstarter is going to fill that gap. And then when cons come back, I don't think cons are going to be able to compete. I don't think they're going to be able to compete the same way, because I can get everything I want right now as a comic book investor, legitly from my bedroom, eating waffles. Okay, like, and I don't miss cons. I don't. I can do everything. I've done more work this year than I've ever done at a convention. I've gained more followers this year than I've ever done at a convention, and it's insane. And I've done it all from the convenience of sitting in my parents' kitchen, my bedroom, or I just moved from my apartment in D.C. to Connecticut, and I was in my kitchen, and I did 90 of them. And if I was to do a con, I'd have to travel, and I would lose money. And I didn't lose money this year, but I didn't necessarily make any money, but I didn't lose money. I lost like $20. So for you to do 90 cost of $20, it's unbelievable. So yeah, I can keep going, but I'm gonna let you go.
No, that's really interesting. Do you think? I guess my question then would be, because that's a really interesting way to say it. Do you think, though, that that's a generational thing? Because I know that the younger generation, and not to sling around any terrible terms that people might not like, but more millennials and whatnot, they love the convenience and the idea of being able to do everything from home. They love things like digital comics and all that kind of stuff. Where I feel like the older generations, even if cons came back, they would want that just because there's a nostalgia factor. So do you feel like there's going to be a split where we see more young people going, fuck cons, I'm going to stick with Kickstarter, and maybe more of the older generation going, I really do like Kickstarter and there's some cool stuff there, but I'm still going back to cons? Like, do you see something like that, or do you envision it differently?
So I see that it's going to be like 70-30, going Kickstarter, going digital, going virtual. I think a lot of work needs to be done on the virtual front. Don't get me wrong. And here's why I think this. So I think from an economic position, because here's the problem that goes on. I don't know how many people know how a con works. So all these people get guarantees. All these celebrities get guarantees. It's a celebrity driven downward. It's a slant downward. So when I'm going to use somebody. I don't want to use somebody's name. We're going to put Celebrity X. Celebrity X has been in like 3 movies. They're big. People love them, and they're guaranteed $50,000 to be there. And the con covers their hotel costs and maybe travel costs, or maybe they don't. I don't know, but whatever. It's $50,000 they're going to be making. They know they're making $50,000. They come, right? So now they sell their autograph on an 8x10 for $50, and then they sell a photo of them or a photo with them for $50. And so now every time they sell it, that counts against their guarantee. So now if they sell X amount, I'm not doing the math. I'm really lazy and I'm bad at it.
That's okay.
I'm gonna get it wrong, but obviously it's 50 divided by 50,000. So that's how many they need to sell. And then if they make it, but let's say they sell $60,000, they keep the 10,000 and the con doesn't pay them anything. And let's say they sell 45,000, the con pays them $5,000 because they had the guarantee. So now because of COVID and then going forward, and this is how I'm thinking, and I could be wrong, and feel free to disagree with me, everybody, but this is my thinking. This is my logic, is that I don't know if they're going to be able to do photos anymore. I don't know if that's coming back. And so now we just cut that by half. Not to mention that I don't know if anybody is going to be able to I don't know if they're going to have the same audience and the same volume of being comfortable. So now that's what I think, and why we're going to have that split, because now all of a sudden, let's say that a con was going to book 10 celebrities. Now they can only afford 5. Well, that's a whole different draw, and then they don't feel they can guarantee that position. They're not going to book the celebrities, which then drives the traffic, and then drives all of that, and then drives traffic to you at the very bottom, which is how it works. And so that's why I think it's going to be 70-30, because I don't think it's what fans want. I think it's what's economically feasible. And that's how I view it. And that's why I've made the shift. And so I don't know if I'm ever going back to a con, because I don't know if it's advantageous. I don't know. There was no money in it before, and there's going to be even less going forward. In my opinion. And I could be wrong. But that's what I think.
Well, and so I guess in speculation, hearing these dissenting points of view and whatnot, that's an important thing just to get all of us thinking and considering. So I'm not sure 100% I agree with you, but I love hearing what you have to say because it at least gets me thinking in another way and going, okay, cool. Because all too often we're kind of in that echo chamber of this is how I see it and all that. And so hearing how you feel about it, it allows me to go, oh,
And I'm the
okay.
first person. I'm the first person where I might be 100% wrong. I don't mind admitting
Yeah.
that I might be wrong because I have never produced a book. I've been at a con and I produced a panel. And the way I see it is that I like to have as many people in there because I'm trying to get them to like my Facebook page, trying to like get them to like my Instagram, like my Twitter. So now if I spoke to 300 people, now I can only have 150 people in there. That's changing my marketing position completely. And so now, even if I do it, like I'm saying to myself, like, wait a second, I can go and I could do an interview in my house at my kitchen table and get 500 people looking at it. And then if I really wanted to spend $10 on Facebook ads, which is a whole different discussion. We could talk about the algorithms and all that stuff for a whole different discussion. But even still, I could then get another 1,000 people to look at it. And I can market to them, and then I could hire somebody to do that who could do it for 15 of my interviews for like $300. So my point is that there are so many more options, and I just feel that it's just not advantageous for me because there's going to be restrictions. And I just feel like the restrictions are going to be too great, and it's going to be 50% or greater on me, and that affects my bottom line when I'm not getting paid. And then also all of a sudden, now there's less options on the table, and now prices are going to rise. And I'm thinking of it like as an economist. And look, maybe I'm wrong. I honestly hope I am wrong. I hope that they are profitable, and then these people get like 70,000 guarantees. They do 100,000, and that there's more than ever people in there. And obviously, I want everybody to be safe, but I hope that I'm wrong. But I'm very pessimistic about it, and I think that this is the new era. And I think that I don't think it's what the fans want anymore. I think it's what's the bottom dollar, because the money dictates it all, and the top of the money dictates the bottom. And it's an unfortunate reality.
Yeah, absolutely. Wendy came on and she said, so the more celebrities that are at a con, the better for the little guys. Now, I am interested to hear what you have to say, but I'm not sure I would agree with that. For me, anyways, I've found that the celebrities are great because they at least get a lot of people in there. But those people don't necessarily come to small press and want to buy, my little book and stuff. So I'm not sure actually I would agree with that. For sheer numbers, absolutely. Fuck yeah. There's going to be thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of people there, but that does not automatically turn into sales. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I don't think there's Comic-Cons anymore. I think that there are pop culture cons.
That's it.
Now, I will say this. There are small Comic-Cons where I went to a show when Scott Lobdell was there, and I love Scott's run on Teen Titans, and Scott's a nice guy. And then we had a lovely conversation, and it was very much a Comic-Con where you had a bunch of small people, and you had like Joe Sinat, I think, was there, and a lot of cool people were there, and it was awesome. It was awesome. And he was like drawing for like $20, like doing like 11 by like little tiny paper sketches, dirt cheap, really really cool position, cool con, super nice. So I think there's small Comic-Cons, but you go to a big Comic-Con like Awesome Con, it's not a Comic-Con. It is a pop culture event. Now, I don't like going into Celebrity Alley. I'm not there for the celebrities. I'm there because I'm a comic book fan. I want to go and I want to pick up like a sketch by somebody. I want to pick up, a graded book. I want to go through the dealers and see what they got for me and see what I could add to my personal collection or what I could buy or what I think is going to be worth money or get stuff signed. When I go to a con, most of what I'm doing is getting stuff signed and graded. And then I might do a panel because it's just a free ticket. I have no desire for Celebrity Alley. Why do you think with that Batman story, I didn't push my luck with Will Friedle? I'm like, it's just not on my docket. And it's not that it's anti-celebrity. It's just that I didn't even make the connection in my head. It was obviously there. I'm like, oh, yeah, I didn't realize he was that and he was here and all that stuff. But Celebrity Alley is not for me. So I think the small, I agree where I think that number-wise it's great, but it doesn't trickle the same way. small cons it does. So if you have a major celebrity, and let's say you have a small con that caters to 3,000 people, which is relatively small, and you have like 4 major celebrities there, and then you have indie press, that would trickle, I feel. But if you have, Awesome Con, which caters to like 35,000 people, and you have 25 celebrities, and then you have big comic celebrities, all of a sudden it's a tough fight for an indie press, I would imagine. But again,
Yeah, it is.
I'm not in that space, but I know for a fact that the difference for me as a panelist is that after a while, people get sick of spending money, okay? And they want to sit and they want to be entertained and they want to hear an interesting perspective. And when I'm talking about something like podcasting in anime or comics, or I'm talking about, something like comparing Attack on Titan to The Walking Dead, which I invented that concept. That is my concept. I am the godfather of it. I've actually been cited in papers on it, which is crazy. It's funny when somebody's writing their PhD and they're citing like a 22-year-old. It's amazing. Especially in foreign countries, it's even better. It's the funniest thing in the world. But it's a nice feather in my cap. I find it humorous. But for me, I have the advantage because I'm not selling anything. All you have to do is sit in my panel, and and then I hand out free buttons, and people are like, "Oh, this is awesome, man! Free shit!" Like, great. But they want to sit and they don't want to spend money, and I don't really sell hard on that beyond my social media. But I agree with you more, and I'm echoing a lot of stuff with what you're saying.
And I feel you very much there. So I think one of my final questions is going to be, Wendy. I had asked Wendy beforehand because I was trying to fill out my sheet, and I'm like, what would you want to ask him as a speculator and whatnot? And so she had this great question. She said, "Is there something specific about a cover that tells you it's going to be a big buy?"
Ooh, this is a tough one. Oh man, it's tricky because it depends. Connecting covers. I love connecting covers. I love covers that are connecting, especially if it's limited. If there's it says 150 printed and that's it, that sort of gives me an indication about it. Also those certain things like, sometimes things just scream out at you. I just bought, I'll give an example of a comic I just bought. I just bought a 9/8 pre-sale New High Republic. And it's the one where it's Yoda and I forget who the other Jedi / creature is. And obviously Baby Yoda is big. It's Baby Yoda. It's got another name. I don't want to ruin too much for anybody who hasn't seen The Mandalorian. But I'm saying to myself, this cover looks really cool. It screams like Star Wars essence. If you know Star Wars, everybody knows Yoda. And it looks cool. And so I took the gamble on it where I'm like, well, the other two covers look cool. It's a cover A, and I know cover A's do well as investments sometimes. And this book looks awesome, and it's got a lot of hype. But this cover seems like the winner. Because this seems like this is Star Wars. This says, when you think of Star Wars, you think of Yoda. You think of Vader. You don't think, you might think of Han Solo, but you don't really think of Han Solo. We polled a bunch of people in this chat right here, what they thought, they'd be like, yeah, it's Yoda. It's Vader, So that's kind of what draws me. And so I get that idea. And if I look at something that makes me stop, just in general with covers, I'm buying it. So Steph Wilson's a great example. I love that Bilal cover. And I love it because I think it's funny. It makes me stop. So if you go to a con, and I'm going to throw this out there, and this is super interesting. It's the same thing with Zenescope in many ways, where, boom, you put that up right there, and you're Welcome to the Void, which is behind you, and you put that Bilal cover, you're going to get so many people stopping at your booth. It's not even going to be funny anymore, and you're going to offend some people, but at the same time, you're going to have a lot of fun with it, and people are going to be like, what's this about? This is interesting. And so I don't know, that cover doesn't make me say, oh, Bilal's going to get it. That cover says, I want that thing, and I want that thing now. It's not a matter of it's going to be good or not. It's a matter of I want it now because this is fun, this is sexy, this is enjoyable. It's the same thing with Sister Mercy and his cover. I just thought it was funny. You've seen the Sister Mercy cover by Corey Hardiman, and then
That was
I
the
just
nun,
was like,
right?
oh, yeah, it's the nun, and it's like the highway, still over the highway, and like people are driving. It's like a bizarre cover, but it's sexy enough, and it makes me stop. And so that's the thing about when I buy covers is that I say, okay, what's going to make me stop, and what's going to make me want to talk about it, and what's going to make that makes me buy it. And that's the thing. It's the same thing. It's nothing new. This is marketing 101. Is that what makes somebody stop and listen to my podcast? What's going to make somebody stop and pick up my comic class? What's going to make somebody stop and say, oh, this I got to hear more of? It's when I look for interviews with people, I'm very selective. What's going to make me stop? I go through Instagram on cosplayers and I will type in just a superhero cosplay. And then I'll go through 15 of them. And I'm like, okay, this one made me stop. That's how I operate. And then it's not necessarily investing, but it's definitely how I think. And I whatever's going to make me stop most likely is going to make somebody else stop and is going to make somebody else wanting to buy it. And then I look at the limited ability of it. That's what I like about Zenoscope is that it's a cool cover and then 250 printed. And I can reasonably expect that at least 3% to 5% are going to be damaged. And they might print 270, but they're only going to release 250 on a book.
Yeah.
And then out of those 250 or those 270, I know at least 3% is going to be damaged. So I know there's at least going to be, if every single one of them was graded, it's going to be at least 230 of them are going to be 9.8s at best. And so now it becomes competitive for books to happen. So that's kind of my theory. I know it's a long answer, and I didn't really answer it truly, but that's the best I can answer. But sometimes I'm wrong about it. Sometimes the cover is shit. Ultimate Fallout 4 is not a great cover. The regular cover, it's not.
Yeah.
But it's a valuable book that didn't become valuable until like 8 years later. And they were actually giving it away for free on Free Comic Book Day. So if you were smart and you actually, like I did not buy that book. I picked it up on Free Comic Book Day, and I made my dad take me to Midtown Comics after he had like a tooth pulled. So I'm a real trooper here.
Yeah, I think your dad sounds like the trooper there, man. Let's be honest.
I was the one who made the sacrifice, but that's not the point. I didn't even know what I had. So like 6 years, legitimately, I knew, like a year and a half ago, I knew what I had. I'm like, holy shit, I got a holy grail thing, and it's still in the plastic wrap. I took it out. I wanted to make sure I knew what I had, but it's a first print, and put away in Free Comic Book. It's insane.
Right.
Midtown probably had like 5 of them, and probably 500 times, which is what it's going to be, is it usually sits around like $400-$500 now, and a 9.8.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do the math. They just gave up like $25,000. I want to say. I think my math is correct. A lot of money for a comic book they gave away for free. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
but
right.
Anyway,
that's pretty hilarious. So just as we're kind of winding this down and whatnot, you mentioned your classes. Can you tell everybody just a little bit about your classes and where they can track you down in order to possibly take them? Because I'm sure there's some people who would be interested in learning about comic book speculation.
So right now I'm just building one class. It's kind of my thing, and it's still in development. I'm working on it. It's comic book investing. And right now I don't even have a Facebook page, but I have a podcast that is meant to be daily, but I do it when I can. And it's called the Comic Book Investing System Podcast, and it's on Anchor, and it's also Facebook Live. And so I'm going to be getting back to doing that, hopefully either this week or next week. And I just shoot for 20 minutes on a variety of topics, no particular order. And again, that's completely free. And then I'm hoping to launch the class. And so if you follow me on that page, what'll wind up happening is that you'll just get a bunch of free stuff on that. And there's a bunch of episodes out there. And then I will let everybody know where that class is. And I'm looking to launch it in March, late March, early April. Given everything that's going on, but obviously it's a lot of work. Just to break it down really quickly, we go through research, we go through budgeting and how to build budgets and how to cash flow budgets in investing. We go through grading and that entire process, and then we go through exiting. And so it's like looking like it's going to be 17 to 19 hours just of materials. And I don't know what the price point is, and I'm not too sure at the moment, but there's going to be a bunch of cool bonuses, a bunch of checklists in there, a bunch of other cool stuff. And so I'm throwing out a lot of interesting stuff that's going on with it. And I'm putting it all together, and it's me, and got a lot of stuff planned for it. So I'm very excited. And it's not a top 10 list. That's not what my goal is. It's legitly to teach you the basics and teach you more than the basics, because if you get 50% out of that class when it launches, you are 50% more prepared. And that means that you are 50%, better off. And I'm a strong believer that, because some people believe you have to win and somebody has to lose. But if you have more information and you have more knowledge when you go to a con or go to your comic shop or go on eBay or wherever else you get comics, Facebook Marketplace, you're just going to be able to make a better deal. And the other person, hopefully they're educated, will also be able to make a better deal. Because the more education and the more educated two people are, the faster deals happen, just by nature. So that's the goal here. It's not a top 10 list. And I have no desire to do it because things constantly change. So definitely Facebook. It's the Comic Book Investing System podcast. You can follow me on there, as well as my personal page, which is Pop Anime Comics. You can follow me there. My Twitter handle's at Pop Anime Comics. Instagram is Pop Anime Comics. Just put up a lot of cool comic stuff I got up there. And that's pretty much everything that I'm there. I am actively looking for guests who are into indie comics. So if you're doing that stuff, feel free to hit me up. Do me a favor though. If you're going to send me a friend request, also shoot me a message saying who you are. Because that makes my life a hell of a lot easier. Because I get a lot of friend requests, and if I don't know who you are and you look like a honey trap, I'm going to quietly, and I mean run away. If you look a certain way and you don't tell me who you are, you're not getting anywhere near me. Especially in today's world. So keep that in mind, that you should probably introduce yourself. And that's another thing about interviewing. We mentioned it earlier on. Definitely introduce yourself. Hey, my name is, and I do this comic. I saw you on Chuck's show. And then I'll probably figure out what your intention is, and then we'll work from there. But seriously, it drives me crazy when people don't do that. So please do it, because it legitimately makes me angry. And
I literally can tell you it almost never happens.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
People don't do it, and then I have to shoot them an email, say, "Hey, what's up, man? What's your comic?" And it creates not the greatest discussion, for starters. But I digress.
Yeah. All right, cool. Dude, yeah, thank you so much. I feel like I learned an awful lot about you. I feel like I could feel myself level up through this interview. So hopefully the next one will be awesome. So guys, next week I have Madeline Holly Rosing on there from Source Point Press and her absolutely amazing series Boston Metaphysical Society. It blew out of my brain for a second there. Please come check us out. Same time as always, 10 o'clock Eastern on Tuesdays. I'm always here. Andrew, thank you so much for coming out tonight. I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. It's nice to be on the other side.
Good stuff, man. Guys, take care of yourselves. Be safe. And as always, my name's Chuck, and I give a fuck. Take care.